Good morning and welcome to my blog, Wisdom for Today. And today I want to talk to you about how Jacob wrestled with an angel until the morning. If you know that story, you know it's the story of Jacob and his father Isaac and his brother Esau. And the reason I want to talk to you about it today is this Sunday we're going to talk about how in the book of Hebrews it says, by faith Isaac blessed Jacob. And yet, if you know the whole story, it was a deception. Rebecca wanted her favorite son to be blessed by his father and not the eldest son, who was Esau. And so she told him to cover his skin with animal hair. So when his father felt him, he would think he had the eldest son and give the blessing. It's kind of a sad story because Esau runs off and cries and bitterly weeps for his blessing, but doesn't get it. So this Sunday, we're going to talk about that. And why was it faith when there was deception involved? But right now, I want to talk to you about Jacob. Because even though Jacob gets the blessing, it doesn't come easy to him. Both him and his brother are blessed with goods and wealth and wives, which in those days was a sign of wealth. And he struggles with this dishonesty thing. And God's going to work it out with him. So the night before he meets his brother, he's on a hill. And you know that Jacob wants to make peace with his brother, who threatened to kill him after he stole the blessing. So he sends his brother a messenger with camels and donkeys and maidservants and manservants. And then the scripture says he sends his wives and his children and his possessions across the river. So just in case this brother wants to exact his judgment, Jacob knows it's just going to fall on his head and not his family's. And then the scripture says, when Jacob was left alone, and a man came and wrestled with him until daybreak. And when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wretched, and and he wrestled with the man. And the man said, "Let go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go until you bless me." And the man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you've struggled with God and with man and have overcome." And this is how we know it's the angel of the Lord, because he struggled with God and with man. Now, we don't know who started this fight. The scripture doesn't tell us. But I want to give you at least 3 reasons why Jacob struggles with the man and how God redeems the situation. First of all, he struggles with him out of fear. Fear of the man, and maybe self-defense because of the man, but also fear of his brother. That's why he sent his wives, his kids, his possessions over the river. When we are in fear, sometimes we get angry at God, and that doesn't help us at all. If you wonder why there's so many ugly stories in the Old Testament, it's not because God is cruel and ugly. It's because humanity is cruel and ugly. It's our mess. It has less to do with God as it has to do with us. And sometimes when we're angry because of our own mess, we get self-defensive and angry at God. And nothing good can come from that. He does wrestle until daylight, and that meant he hung on. But wouldn't it be better if he talked to the man? Wouldn't it be better if he submitted right away and found out what the man wanted? But he wrestles. And thus, his hip, he's left with a disability. His hip is dislocated. He wrestles with God, perhaps to break his spirit of deceit and his spirit of independence. Jacob means heel grasper. to grasp someone's heel, which is to make them slip when they're walking around, make them trip. Now, the reason he was named that is as he came out of the womb, the scripture says the children were fighting in the womb, and he was grasping his brother's heel. So from the very beginning, he had a temperament that wanted to trip other people up. And with that temperament, he couldn't be trusted with God. And this time he wrestles with this man, and this man leaves him with a disability where he can't trip anyone else because he might fall. He now has to walk with a staff. His hip is dislocated. How often it is that we come into this world thinking, I got to take care of number one because no one else will. Or when someone hurts us saying, well, from this point on, it's me alone. And we're so busy looking for other people to trip. And we're so self-defensive that our hands aren't open to the blessings in front of us. Jacob had to be changed, not with a man who trips other people, but a man who wrestles with God, who fights with God. And that's the last reason why he wrestles with God. It changes his identity. The scripture says that God renamed him one who wrestles with God and man, and who struggles with God and man, and succeeds. You know, things don't always come easy to us when we approach the throne of God. And there's lots of reasons. I won't give you just one. Sometimes it is some faults in our own life that we have to get straight with God. Sometimes it is that someone sinned against us and we have to learn strength to overcome that, because in the Bible, there is an expectation that God's people will overcome. That's in the book of Revelations, blessed are those who overcome. But sometimes it's because there's something being worked out in us, or just that life is difficult and there's mystery. But the important thing that Jacob does is that he hangs on till morning. And that's a gift I'd like to give all of you. Whatever you're going through tonight, hang on until morning. Morning will be a different day. That's what God gives us. Jacob, who was a heel grasper, becomes the sign of God's providence, of someone who wrestles with God, and yet God succeeds. I pray you have a lovely day this summer afternoon, and I hope you find a Bible-believing church. And if you're in Enfield, I hope to see you in church this Sunday. God's blessings, and enjoy the blessings God has for you in this day.